So recently, Elliot and I did a video on 5 reasons why we are worried about the upcoming Pokémon Sword and Shield for Nintendo Switch. And as many in the comments noted, a lot of this comes down to Game Freak's interactions with fans or really lack thereof. And so we figured, you know what, I'm not sure if anyone from Game Freak is watching this, but then again, we never know who's watching, right? So today on Master Trainer, we're going to do something a little different. So I'm James.
I'm Elliot.
And today we're going over 5 ways Game Freak could be more in touch with Pokemon fans.
Number 5. Actually listen to fans on social media. Interact. Acknowledge that people have issues with what they're seeing. I know there are more important things to worry about than Pokemon, but also, if I don't like what I'm seeing, I'm not going to get the game. And I know there are a lot of crazy Pokemon fans out there.
We want Game Freak to kindly interact with people. We don't want them to do a 180 from not acknowledging fans at all to who's the guy who worked on Bayonetta who blocks everyone who even critiques them. Yeah, don't do that.
You can't listen to every single thing people are saying, but if you're noticing a lot of people are saying this isn't good, maybe listen to the fact that people are saying this isn't good. And on that note, don't be afraid to build on previous gimmicks instead of trying to introduce new ones that are just reskins.
Exactly. So for number 4 comes particularly after we saw a new feature announced, Gigantamaxing, which lets some Pokemon that Dynamax and become giant get new forms. Some of them look cool. I like the giant British layer cake Pokemon. It's just Mega Evolution 2.0.
Yeah.
So, Dynamaxing seems cool, but what is it, even without Gigantamaxing, but a great take on Mega Evolutions, which aren't coming back and have had nothing really done with them since Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire back in 2014, 5 years ago.
And honestly, those games didn't do much with it either, so...
True, but I would have liked to have seen some more designs, you know, I would have liked to have seen them at least be present, you know, they were present in Let's Go along with the Alolan forms, you know, like, at the very least give us the Alolan form since you already have models for all of those. But it's not just Mega Evolution, you know, stuff like Pokemon contests, you know, those were cool. I know a lot of people like that. I know you really enjoyed those.
In some of the games, the contests were pretty cool. Also, like, there's one where you can, like, dress up your Pokemon that was really cool.
Yeah, like the Pokemon musicals in black and white.
There we go. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's black and white, but I can't remember and I don't want to sound stupid.
Don't feel afraid to not only bring back old features, but to build upon them. And I wonder how much of this is just time constraints, because I know you can't bring everything back, but also going to number 3, when it comes to Pokemon, Game Freak shouldn't feel obligated to make a yearly series, especially since, as they've admitted, this isn't their main priority right now.
Yes. Feel
free to take a break. Delay it if you have to.
Like, honestly, they delayed Animal Crossing, and we were all pretty okay with that.
Yeah, and they even just said, we want our employees to have a better work life, that's fine. But here's the thing. Sword and Shield have been in development for a while, since 2016 actually, and that was when Sun and Moon were brand new.
Yes.
And apparently, they may even start earlier. Like, I heard some reports that stuff and planning for these were going on till all the way back to 2013, though I can't confirm those.
That's a long time, but what games have we had? I mean, we had Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, we had Sun and Moon Ultra, Let's Go. In the past 8 years, the only year not to see a mainline game was 2015, but we did get Pokemon Shuffle and Pokemon Rumble World and Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon that year.
And while most of these spin-offs were farmed out to other companies, such as the Mystery Dungeon game being made, as always, by the incredible Spike Chunsoft, please bring out a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game on Switch.
Please.
Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon is a ton of fun. I need a copy for myself. But Game Freak, you know, they still must have had some level of involvement, even if it was minimal with these. As for mainline games, if one team is tasked for 3DS games, then the senior team was working on Sword and Shield or some other project, and if I'm understanding interviews correctly, yet another team was then working on big projects such as Town. So then what's to say if all this manpower was dedicated to Sword and Shield? You know, we could have truly had Pokemon's Breath of the Wild or Pokemon's Mario Odyssey, or I guess something a bit more grand than what we're currently seeing. Because don't get me wrong, the games don't look bad, they just don't look like
something.
They don't have potential that's quite been reached. No, the thing is as well, we know Pokemon's a cash cow, right?
Yes, and just give us proof that these games are more than just an obligation to the fans.
Absolutely. For number 2, I think Game Freak, if you really care about these, even if they're not your main priority, give us some proof that these really do have love behind them. You know, that you aren't just doing these because, oh, we told Nintendo we do this as a yearly thing. Town looks way better than Sword and Shield does. In fact, let's talk about Pokemon's main competitor in Japan, the new Yokai Watch.
Yes.
Looks way better than this does, graphically speaking. And I'm not saying they're ugly. Look, I know about the tree thing and whatnot, but whatever. As long...
tree thing. Oh, have you seen that video where the guy just like explodes over the tree? Yeah, it's kind of a thing.
I will say, you know, as I said, it doesn't have to look like Breath of the Wild, but like maybe up to par of like the new Yokai Watch. But then again, Yokai Watch's defense, you know, that's, even though it's huge in Japan, it didn't have that explosion overseas. So I feel like they really have to work towards it to get that. Well, I don't know, I think a lot of involved with Pokemon are kind of coasting at this point.
Yeah, Pokemon, it kind of relies on the fact that we're all going to buy the Pokemon games, even if they look bad. And I feel like we have to stop giving them that ability as fans, like, because eventually the games are going to, you know...
Sonic 06 on us.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that out loud, but yeah.
That said, they're making it hard to want to pass on these because they just announced the Switch Lite, and that new Pokemon Sword and Shield Switch Lite looks really pretty.
Yeah.
I kind of want it. But anyways, moving on to number 1 before I gush about that beautiful Pokemon Sword and Shield Switch Lite. Number 1.
Don't feel afraid to announce DLC or patches or delays. Like, just fix the issues.
Exactly.
Like, if Game Freak is acknowledging that people are saying we have issues, then they can do stuff to actually work on fixing it. And I don't mind DLC, I don't mind patches, I don't mind delays. I think if it's gonna give me a better experience,
I might wait off on buying.
Yeah.
But if you give me proof that you will make a better game or over time or whatnot, I might eventually buy it. Look, we're worried about Sword and Shield. The graphics aren't where they are, the frame rate's not where it's are, there's Poppin' that looks like a PS1 game, but I will give them this. The new Pokemon designs are actually really great. I just hope I can use both a Wooloo and a Mareep.
I'm still kind of sad about, like, the National Dex.
Same. But anyways, with that, what Pokemon Sword and Shield or news videos or discussions should we do in the future? Do you want me to do more videos? Do you want to see Elliot do some videos on his own instead of just coming along with me? Whatever you want, let us know in the comment section below. And while we're at it, subscribe to Master Trainer, join us on Discord, join the Pokemon discussion, gush with me about how pretty the new Pokemon Sword and Shield Switch Lite is. So anyways, before I gush about that more and ramble on, I'll say it for Discord. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for sharing out this video, hopefully, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.